So Julie and Jason, I'm so glad that we could talk about Hand in Hand, the album that you have coming out. And I'm going to start by asking you, Jason, about something that's in the press release. It says that you're quoted as saying, every song that we chose has a special meaning to us and has grown with us in our relationship. What does Hand in Hand tell us about your relationship and how you not only weathered the pandemic, but also creatively flourished during it?
Well, the arrangements on the album emerged completely from a live stream series that we started every week, mostly Monday nights during the pandemic on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, called Quarantunes. And we would play songs that we loved and knew well, but also songs that we were just exploring for the first time. If you play every week with the same person, you develop a certain close musical rapport, which we already had, but it only deepened through that period because we weren't collaborating with anyone else. We weren't able to. And so as we learned new repertoire and explored new repertoire, we also got suggestions from listeners, family and friends and fans who would tune in online. And so many of the songs bring to mind certain memories from that period, as well as memories from prior, like the number of New Orleans songs that are included on the record bring to mind the several trips that Julie and I have taken there. So it's sort of like a tour through our living room. It's almost as if we're inviting you into a Quarantunes with a higher production value and
significantly
higher production value, and that you'll get to witness sort of who we are as individuals, who we are as a couple, and as a musical partnership.
And how did you find that the arrangements that you did in these Quarantunes influenced the arrangements you chose to do on the album?
Well, many of the arrangements, they were not, ordinarily, I can say as somebody who does a lot of arrangements for Julie and for other artists, ordinarily there's kind of a fixed timeline and a deadline, and you sit down and you write the arrangement, you figure out all the elements. Most of these arrangements kind of organically developed as a dialogue between us. Hey, why don't we try this at the beginning? Or what if we try that in the middle? Or what about this ending? Maybe we should change the key. And we could do it differently every time we performed it online. And so when we had the idea to finally record these in the studio, many of the arrangements were solidified in a conceptual sense, but because it's just the two of us, they also weren't precisely notated in every case. So we could really play and explore in the studio and try things out to greater and lesser degrees. Some of the songs, a couple of the songs we had never played on Quarantunes, they're the exception rather than the rule. And those were very freeing and able to be explored in the studio.
Did you find that your relationships with the songs changed from when you first started performing them to when you finally had to cement them in a formal recorded version?
I think so. I mean, some of the songs we recorded so many takes of, and they were all so different, and we had to choose, which one. Like, I think me, myself, and I, we did it. We had a few days in the studio, and we did it on both days, and each take was very different and very, different tempos, some out of time, some more New Orleans-y, some more, I mean, we really, some very sort of playful and more theatrical, some less so. And so, when we finally chose, like, this is going to be the one that people hear, and we would send them out to our friends, who are musicians and trusted advisors and say, what do you think, and try and get people's feedback. Because at some point too, you're sort of, you can't tell what's better. You just know they're different. You're like, which one, do you respond to? And then of course, sometimes you'd get completely different answers from everybody and you'd have to be like, go with your gut,
Does it become a Sophie's Choice equation?
Yes, very much. It's just like Sophie's Choice.
Sophie might argue that point.
No, I think what the good news is that we actually have all those other recordings and we could always like put them out as like a, alternate take of something if anybody wants to hear some of the other fun stuff we had.
Now, the entertainment industry has been filled with married couples who have achieved incredible highs and some who've achieved incredible lows by working so closely with their spouses. What is the best thing about working with your spouse, and what is the most challenging?
Well,
Well,
yeah, what's the most challenging, darling?
well, I think one point that Julie likes to make is that we have so much in common and so much music that we share with each other and create together. But we also have our own careers in separate worlds. Julie in the theatrical world, and me more in the jazz and improvised music world. And so we're not solely working on our collaborative projects, which I think gives each other the chance to be an individual and to grow independently, and also bounce ideas off one another when we seek counsel. And I would say the best thing is that I feel like Julie and we've become closer as a couple as a result of our music making, and our musical partnership has become better solidified and stronger because we are a couple. And I'd say the most challenging aspect is, when I mess up, I disappoint not only the vocalist who is the star, but I also disappoint my spouse. So that's like extra pressure in a duo setting.
I would assume that the reverse of that would then be true. If you flub a lyric, then you're disappointing not just your fellow musician, but also your spouse.
Mm. I think, like Jason said, it's nice that this is sort of a special thing that we do as opposed to the primary thing that we do. So it really does feel like an escape that we get to, come to the music together as an escape from all of the really stressful stuff that both of our careers, bring us, all of the rejection and all of the hard, just all of that other kind of hard work that when you're an emotional labor of like, they'll never pick me, or, oh my God, I'm so nervous that I'm going to play Fanny 8 times a week. And how will I ever do it? Like when we're making music together, that actually feels like a vacation because it's just fun. But I would say the hard part for me is that I know sometimes we would do our gigs, and if you didn't feel like good about a song or something, like he would get really down, and after the gig was over, like, was that, he really means it when he says he doesn't want to disappoint. It's like, then you have to find a way to say, to support each other as an artist and as a person, and be a cheerleader for both, and be able to make space to hold that, because I think, as with my other musical collaborators, I don't think that they're necessarily as vulnerable to me about saying, I feel really bad about how that song went, and I wish I could have done it better. And I'm usually like, what are you talking about? It was great. Or we'll get another crack at it next week. It's no big deal. We do it because it's fun and we love it. But yeah, I don't think I have that level of intimacy with my other collaborators in that way.
As somebody who only recently got married in May, I'm wondering what a new couple can learn about merging their lives together from watching the way the two of you have merged your musical lives together.
You just got married in May?
I just got married in May.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. In New York, and the night before we got married, we saw Funny Girl, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Wow. Did you see Beanie, or did you see me?
We saw Beanie.
Oh, great.
We saw Beanie. And then Raymond, is that how he says his first name?
Raymondo at the stage door.
I think he means Ramin.
Oh, Ramin.
Ramin.
I was thinking of our stage door man.
Ramin was at Joe Allen's afterwards, where we all held court, and had a very lovely conversation with him. But that's probably best discussed off camera.
Yes, my on-stage husband and my off-stage husband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, we're at the process where we're merging our lives together, and I'm wondering, is there something from merging musical lives that can serve as a role model for anybody who's trying to bring two different voices, 2 different lives, 2 different points of views together?
Well, I think one thing, when we play together, especially on these rubato ballads where there's just, we're out of time, and you have to do a lot of listening and responding, and it's different time to time. I mean, that's just a really great metaphor for what any relationship is like, and that you have to be totally like, we can't be thinking about what are the words or what are the notes and what are the chord changes. Like, we have to be so just tuned into the other one, uh, so that we can have that call and response and listening and giving. It's a give and take, it's a dance, it's a dialogue, and what he plays affects what I sing and vice versa. So I think there's certainly a lesson in the music for relationships in that way, and something that we've noticed the more that we actually try to consciously say, I'm going to really listen to you and watch you and be with you, rather than focus on doing the song, quote unquote, right, the better the music is, because it's really just about being present with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would only add that also in selecting the repertoire and creating the arrangements, it was very much a collaborative process that involved bringing songs from Julie's world and songs from my world together, and then finding, compromise isn't the right word, but sort of meeting each other at a place aesthetically where we both feel at home and excited. And that's a tough combination to reach. But we have we're different artists, and we have different projects and different aesthetics that we enjoy. So finding the Venn diagram of where we meet in the middle, where the circles overlap, is also kind of a good metaphor for merging two lives together, remaining independent and distinct, but also having that shared.
That's great. And
connection.
Also just celebrating. Like, I think when sometimes, this is like maybe TMI, but sometimes, like, when we finish doing a song, just rehearsing on our own, it's like we have to kiss at the end. And it's like, so, and we even make fun of ourselves for doing it. But
audience
it's like,
members that
we'll try not to do it at Birdland.
At Birdland, don't have to worry. We don't do that in public. But
it's like just finding moments to celebrate and enjoy. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with kissing at Birdland, personally.
Well, we've got a tight 75 minutes, and the set is just barely going to fit. So there's no time to
we'll make
waste.
sure to put, paper bags at every table in case people feel sick to their stomach from all the cuteness,
Well, I guess one place where the Venn diagram intersects is in New Orleans. Because that city is clearly a home base for you guys away from home. Now, I kind of wish we were at Jacquemo's or on Frenchman Street having this conversation.
Right.
Both of those would be fun. But why does New Orleans resonate so much for each of you?
Well, we went there on vacation a number of years ago, and it was our first time there, both of us, and we just completely fell head over heels in love with it, because where else does jazz get celebrated? On every street corner, every musical busker, in every bar, jazz music is celebrated and played. And our first night there, Jason got sat in with a band on, what street were we on? Was it Royal Street or?
I don't remember. It was in the French Quarter, and it was called the 21st Amendment Saloon or something like that.
Yeah, they were like, there was a piano in the corner, and they were like, "Are there any pianists here?" And I was raised Jason's hand, and so he hopped in, and they taught him the song that they were, because he didn't know it, which was Me, Myself, and I, which is on the record. And that song became very meaningful to us. It was like the first song we learned in New Orleans. And I think Jason plays all different kinds of jazz, but and for me, I think finding the specifically New Orleans style jazz was like finding the type of music I always knew I loved but didn't have the name for. And it's just so now we've done deep dives into that tradition of music, and it's just so delightful. It's just so delightful. There's so much there. And then, of course, there's the history and all of the different languages that are spoken, and all of the beautiful architecture. It's like we just can't get enough of it there. I think we even thought about getting married there and doing a destination wedding. We talked to like a wedding planner, because we thought, well, if we're doing a destination wedding, we should maybe have a planner. And the person we spoke to said, just so you know, if you're thinking a destination wedding means that people are, fewer people are going to attend, we just want to warn you, when people have destination weddings in New Orleans, anybody who's been to New Orleans wants to come back, and anybody who's never been to New Orleans wants to come visit. So probably your wedding will be very big, and you'll have a destination. So that's, just to warn you. So that was actually one reason we were like, maybe we'll just stay close to home.
Right.
I think it makes sense. Although I will say the first time I went to New Orleans and I walked down Bourbon Street, which was also the last time I intentionally walked down Bourbon Street.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard Proud Mary in a bar and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I went another block and I heard Proud Mary out of another bar, and then another block and I heard Proud Mary, and I said, oh, this street is not for me.
No,
Right.
that's not the street that we love New Orleans, but Bourbon Street is not where we go to hang.
There are actually, yeah, and there are all kinds of music in New Orleans, and all kinds of roots music, blues and Americana and country and
Cajun,
Zydeco, Cajun. And I think also, as a jazz musician, I always loved early jazz or New Orleans jazz, and from the 20s and so on. But it was never something I really studied deeply until I met Julie, and she loves jazz too, but the style and era that she really gravitates to is that brand of jazz music. So we sort of investigated it together for several years.
One of the songs, speaking of jazz, that I love on the album is Sweet Pea. And not just because it's dedicated to Billy Strayhorn, who I think is no matter how much acclaim he gets, is still an unsung hero in jazz, but also because it sounds like a song that Strayhorn would have written, which I assume is intentional. So why, what does Strayhorn mean to you?
Strayhorn is one of my heroes as an artist, somebody who, without much of an ego about it, was casually just brilliant beyond what most of us can even conceive. I mean, they say that he would write and read scores of music while other music was playing. In other words, he could read a score of music and hear it in his head, or even write one out as though he were writing a letter or reading an article. The man was brilliant beyond belief, and he was a brave person as an out gay man in that era, in the 1940s, New York City. He took part in various civil rights actions as well, and he lived only a couple blocks from where we are in New York City, in Harlem. I became increasingly interested in him through various teachers of mine, like the great pianist Fred Hirsch, who did a wonderful Strayhorn tribute, Passion Flower, that was a touchstone recording for me. And then I started to get really fascinated with Billy Strayhorn, the pianist, not just the composer and arranger, but his prodigious piano skills. And I wrote Sweet Pea as a tribute to Strayhorn on his 100th birthday in 2015. And then later added lyrics and knew that I wanted to have Julie sing it. It's in the key of D flat. Strayhorn wrote many of his best loved pieces in D flat, and he also wrote these incredible ballads. And
Sweet Pea was his nickname.
Yes,
was Duke's nickname for him. So.
Exactly.
Well, I can't wait, Julie, for the time when you sing and record Lush Life, which Betty Levette told me she is going to spend her entire life trying to get right.
I know it's intimidating, honestly. But it was funny. We were actually in tech in Funny Girl, and our Michael Rafter, who's our music director, who also is a jazz pianist and does a lot of cabaret stuff, has been Sutton Foster's music director for a long time, and he just noodles around at the piano, in rehearsals. And I would just sit there, and I was sort of one of the only ones who would sort of recognize what he was playing. And I remember when he just played like the 4 opening bars of Lush Life, and I came over and just started singing. He was like, oh, you know it,
Amazing to think that Strayhorn was 17 when he wrote that.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
And the lyrics.
That's just, who is that self-possessed at 17? I know I wasn't.
No,
none of us were.
No.
Right. Well, since you brought up this little show that you're in, that I've heard a little bit about, you obviously, there's no way you could have predicted what this year was going to bring you. I mean, not in a million years.
Yeah, no, this was not, I was not manifesting any of this.
Right. So given the wild shifts and changes that this production has endured, what are the challenges in staying focused and, more to the point, enjoying all the opportunities that this maelstrom has given you?
Mhm. Well, there are challenges in that, obviously there's the media swarm, which I have not generally enjoyed being a part of when it's the tabloidy kind of stuff that's just all speculation. It's just very upsetting, really, to read because it's full of lies, and then you go and you have no recourse because you don't want to even dignify stuff with responses. But I've learned how to sort of tune it out and just turn it off, and I try to just focus on doing the work. And I mean, one of the main challenges also of enjoying it is the exhaustion, the vocal, physical, emotional exhaustion. I mean, I think, every Monday that we've had, Jason can attest, I literally just like lie there. And I can't, he's like, "Do you want to go to dinner?" I'm like, I can't even get off the couch. You're just it takes such a huge amount of energy to put it out there. But once you are there, and I think I have a lot of anxiety about my voice and making sure that it's in good shape, and worrying, okay, if I'm vocally tired today, just the stress going to sleep, will it feel okay when I wake up in the morning? And the first thing you do when you wake up is like, you're checking. But I don't know, as soon as I get there, and put on the costume and see everybody around, and it's like you get on the train and you go, and it's a party. I mean, the I have these things called angel cards that help me, that they're just, they have a word on them that are like joy or authenticity or focus or something. And so I'll try to like I pick a word before every show, and that helps my mind sort of get out of whatever nerves I might have, which I do have. But then, the audience is like excited to be there, and you can feel that. And it's just such a dream come true and such a joy to get up on stage and do this huge complex role that requires every bit of you, and so it's just a joy. So you get on the train, and it takes you, and you uh, try to enjoy the ride.
Are you able to enjoy it, Jason? Given
Absolutely.
everything Julie just said about getting caught up in a lot of the gossip and all the other crap that goes along with this position.
Oh, yeah, I think I have a much easier time of it, because uh it's I'm not being written about, or there's not innuendo about my workplace that I have to deal with. I feel for Julie that can be upsetting at times, but I think she's done a great job of um, making sure her relationships with her colleagues at work are good and honest and free of that noise. And my contribution to contribute to that is when none of us knew what was going to happen. I started a thread with the family that Julie is not on. So if there was an article of interest that, say, someone else in the family really needed to share, they could share it there so that everyone except Julie would see it.
Yeah, I had to ask. I said, please just don't include me on this conversation because it just stresses me out. And I just don't, I have enough stress. I want the stress that I have to be at least, you know, at least stress about what the job actually is, and not all the other stuff.
Which brings me to the version of People that you have on Hand in Hand. And People is one of those songs like Being Alive in Company, where it seems like everybody needs to make it as big as possible at the end. And that's the tradition. And what I love is that you've taken this less is more approach and made it much more intimate on the album. What did the song reveal to you that maybe you didn't know before when you started looking at it from that perspective?
Well, I would say, we didn't really know, I didn't know People before I had to audition for Funny Girl. And
And I only knew it from her audition. She asked me to
I
accompany
said, "Can you
her.
play my self tape?"
Um,
And So that's
So-
how we learned it. And
Yeah.
sorry, you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
Just that I think probably the fact that we didn't have that long-standing relationship of feeling like there were expectations we had to fulfill probably helped allow us to just explore it in our own way. But I knew the scene that it came out of because they'd sent me the script, and the sense we got from the scene was like, this is a scene about people who are in a seduction, scene, this love that's beginning, and it's also a song that's about, it's about loneliness and connecting. And I don't know, I think when you do it in a show and you do it on stage and you have a big theater to fill and you have a big orchestra to sing with, it's a little, you get to belt things out and you pick a key where you can really go let loose. But to me, the lyric and the emotion behind the song of wanting to connect in a very intimate way with someone really spoke to, let's do it. Let's find a way to express that intimacy and the intimacy we feel when we get to play together. So, I remember we were thinking about doing it in the original key, and I said, let's bump it down. Let's just, because the more that we did it in the original key, the more I said that feels like musical theater, and it feels like us trying to do a version that is not what we would maybe even listen to on our own, on our, not in context of a show, in context of a musical.
Well, and it was in the context of our album, which has
Yeah.
that kind of intimacy, that duo feeling, even on the tracks that are orchestrated with more instruments that we overdubbed. There's still this kind of house concert or small salon feeling to the record that's, we hope, inviting. And so that's sort of the feeling we brought to it. And I was thinking of either something kind of like a tango or a bolero, something kind of with that sort of groove and dance, because the song feels like a dance between these two characters. So yeah, but it came about pretty spontaneously. We just came up with a couple ideas the night before the session and then played around with it in the studio.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to see somebody in a cabaret setting combine People and another 100 people from Company and have this total contrast.
Another 100 people.
Well, or maybe not that literally, but finding a way of interpolating the two so that you could get this contrast of trying to get together and the inability to get together because so many people are bouncing in and out. I love the choice of Gainesville, by the way. I don't think many people know Faust. I actually saw a staged version of Faust at La Jolla Playhouse.
Oh wow.
Great.
I think the shows can be reworked and become effective, but that music is amazing.
Randy Newman is amazing, and I think fits right into our aesthetic of like New Orleans-y but theater-y and theatrical, and yeah.
And we found the song via Randy Newman's music director.
Yeah, Michael Roth is a composer in his own right, but he's also Randy Newman's music director, and I think was the music director for the Princess and the Frog movie and stuff. And I was supposed to do a musical that he wrote at the Guthrie over a summer a few years ago. It was called the New Planet, and I was supposed to play the last frog alive on Earth, because it was all about like climate change and stuff. And he, when he was watching Quarantunes, because he would tune in a lot, he said, this is a song that I think would be really good for you and Jason. Like it was one of those examples of somebody saying, I've been watching you as an artist, and I think this would really fit for you. And so we fell in love with it. Jason, I know you kept saying like, this is like a perfect contemporary art song.
Yeah, it really is like an art song.
Yeah, it's terrific, and you guys do a wonderful arrangement of it. I want to conclude our conversation by asking you about something Fanny Brice said, to see how it might relate to Hand in Hand. Let the world know you as you are, not as you think you should be, because sooner or later, if you are posing, you will forget the pose, and then where are you? Which seems like you know this quote.
I love this quote. Yeah.
I do too. I think it's wonderful. So how does Hand in Hand let the world see who the two of you are? And how do you think you'll look back on this maybe 10 years from now?
Well, I think that the album is so, it's eclectic, right? Like we really bounce around between a lot of different genres and feelings, and we play around with different instruments. And we tried not to let ourselves be limited by genre when we were making it. And I think, you know, we didn't want to think of it as, it's not a jazz record, it's not a theater record, it's our record, and it's very emblematic of the music that we enjoy listening to, and the music that we enjoy creating together, and the music that we very honestly make on our own in our living room, you know. And so we tried not to let ourselves be confined by other ideas about how to pigeonhole whatever this was. And that made it sort of a hard, once we had all the tracks and we were like, how do we put these in an order that is cohesive? Like, it was actually a bit of a challenge. But I think that it speaks to the fact that the album is unique and is something that really truly came from us and things that we love, and from loving each other, which you do need a barf bag.
Well, and I think also that there's a lot of humor and playfulness on the record as well, which is a part of our relationship and who we are in our home lives. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of creativity and surprises on the record as well. There's also tenderness and love and respect. And I think these are also all values that we try to live out in our home lives and in the world. And so I hope that listeners will enjoy getting to know us that way. And I think it is a reflection of us individually and as a couple.
Yeah.
And for people who can't be in New York to see the show at Birdland, it will be live streamed, right?
Yes.
It will be live streamed, yes.
August 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very exciting. Well, thank you both for your time. Are you all right with my posting this interview on our YouTube channel?
Yeah.
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
That's great.
I did my makeup and everything.
You look fabulous.
So did I.
Thank you.
You look fabulous too. Now you just seal this interview with a kiss and we're good.
All right.
All right.